being here. It's a weekday. And I'm always surprised when people come to my shows because I always say, oh, they're not for entertainment. Don't worry, you're going to stay here for an hour and a half. But it's because we're going to tell thoughtful, tell reflective stories, and it's not just for entertainment. So I want to welcome everyone to Talk Stories. Let me ask you, how many of you are the first time to Talk Stories? Raise your hand. Oh my God, thank you so much. All right. How many of you are the first time to the Chinese American Museum of Chicago? Oh my goodness. Oh, almost everybody. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Ada Jen and this is Randy Kim. We are the co-producers of Talk Stories. The show was started in January 2018. We started out at a collaboration theater. And what we decided to do is really to bring Talk Stories to different community centers because I want to bring people to community spaces. That's one of the purposes for Talk Stories too. So people understand the different Asian American communities, what people are doing, the good work they're doing for the community. And the other thing that I really want to do that's unique about Talk Story is that we don't just have performers, we also want to have community members as tellers because there's important stories that need to be preserved, that need to be recorded. And so these are the two features of Talk Stories. Really it's community-based and community-centered storytelling show, and we want community members to come to the show, and so we can bridge performance art and the community itself. And so I want to thank Mabel Menard, who watched the show at Stephen Wedding and who invited us. And then I want to invite Ben Lau, the Executive Director of the museum, for kindly hosting us. Can Ben Lau?
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. My name is Ben Lau, and I am the Executive Director here. If it is your first time to be at our museum, I hope you enjoy the event of tonight. If you are the return, our return clients or customers, I thank you. If you are not either our members, I strongly advise you to be our members because we have a numbers of very good events coming up. We have our Mid-Autumn Festival events, so please consider to be our members. I just hand out our brochures. We have different layers of members. And some housekeeping thing is that we have one restroom here on this floor. We have two restrooms on the first floor. And on my left hand side, we have hot tea, we have water, and please enjoy yourself. And again, thank you very much for coming to our event, and thank you for our board directors. Our president is Sulai Moy, here you are. And our board secretary, Mabel Menard, is over there. And she is volunteering to help us in taking some videos. And again, thank you very much for coming. Please enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. So I'm a teacher. There's something I need to do first. Turn off your cell phone. Turn off your cell phone now before we start the show. I just want to make sure that we're not going to interrupt tellers and performers for the story. So if you can have the phone on mute or doesn't make any sound if possible. All good? All good. Are you ready for the show to start?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. So I'm going to have my partner, co-producer, to introduce our first performer.
Thank you, Ada. How are you feeling tonight? So, our first guest is a dear friend of mine, and they are going to leave for LA because they are going to pursue their musical ambitions. Their name is Sultry, aka Stephanie Kamba, and so Stephanie just had an album out called Sultry. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, and any streaming services, so it's out now. Please listen to it. And without further ado, before I take any more time, let me welcome Sultry.
Hi everybody. How y'all feeling?
I'm so honored to be here. I'm so grateful. This is my first time being here at this museum, and I really admire and really am inspired by the work that Ada and Randy are doing, and the work that we're going to hear tonight, the stories, the important stories that maybe some of us have never heard before. And this first song that I'm going to sing is called Friendship is the Best Ship, and I want to dedicate it to my friend Randy here. We were just talking yesterday about how they're mourning a friend who recently passed, and I just wanted to honor that friend and, you know, ask us to take a moment to meditate before I get started and inhale a nourishing breath and exhale compassion into the world for ourselves and for our friends, and just deep breathing. Continue that one more time. I also want to acknowledge that our friend Light came back from Cambodia, so I just want to dedicate this song to you as well. This is amazing. I feel the energy of friendship and connection, even though right now I'm going through some big changes and, you know, wanting to honor the relationships that I have, but also make space for new ones to grow. I hope y'all enjoy. Because I actually wrote this with a really good friend of mine that I met through community organizing, immigrant rights organizing, and we've continued that friendship now that's blossomed into music. It's called Friendship is the Best Ship because it is. Oh, how nice it is to see you again. Linking up at nightcap, picking up right where we left off. We got arrested for fighting deportations. We're all tired of exploitation, creating our own way. We sing, strum, and sway ourselves back together again. Yes, our friendship was meant. Oh, how this music meant. No time lost, no love lost. We've fought for life at all of our costs. We're ending this war, so much to live for. Love is our purpose. What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? This life starts and it ends all over again, and I love to spend my days with hearts like yours, so big and bursting with so much love to share. How beautiful and blessed we care, and I know even when you're not there, your love is right here. It migrates to me without any visa, so grateful to meet you, my friend. No time lost, no love lost. We've fought for life at all of our costs. We're ending this war, so much to live for. Love is our purpose. What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? What is yours? Do I have one more song?
You have another session?
Or another song? Is that okay?
2 songs? How many songs do you have?
Just one more song.
Okay.
It's actually called Not One More, so not one more after this. But this song is about immigrant rights again, and There's a Not One More campaign. How many of you have heard of that campaign? It's about ending the incarceration and deportation of immigrants before we even begin to talk about comprehensive immigration reform, because the time that I was organizing and part of Not One More campaign, the Democrats were trying to push a bill that was allegedly comprehensive immigration reform, and I did that work with Immigrant Youth Justice League, Organized Communities Against Deportations. Tanya over there, I know, I'm sorry, I put you on blast, but I see you. I saw you when I was singing, and I feel the friendship energy. I also feel this sense that we are all tired of the divisions that we've created, the borders we've created, through policy, through the way that we don't connect, through the way we can't make eye contact, through the way that we other ourselves and each other. So I dedicate this song to our oneness. But yeah, during those times, I felt really intense, and now I'm just in a place of more compassion for myself and for others, because I see myself more in others, and I'm grateful for everybody doing that work of connection, that work of building. That's really important work, as well as, we're deconstructing things, but we have to reconstruct things, we have to rebuild, we have to heal things, we have to connect and relate. We come together to undo these unjust laws. No longer blaming each other. The system we know is the cause. Too long divided, we suffer in silence. Now is the time to break out. When our voices were unheard, can we take all of these words we've been chanting our truth so loud? Now one more, we won't let them take. Now one more, now one more. Not one more of us, not one more. 3 million deported by Barack's administration. My family fears my work, but I healed my creations, inspired by the ways we learn to resist. The most militarized countries that don't want us to exist. We are joining forces in all areas of life. There is something we could all offer to the light. So think about it long and think about it hard. Know that our resistance is coming from the heart. Now one more, we won't let them say. Now one more, now one more. Now one more, they're gonna say. Now one more, now one more of us. Thank you.
Don't underestimate my intelligence. Oh my God! This is unusual. Thank you so much. This show, storytelling in different forms. Some stories need to be told through music, and some stories need to be told through personal narrative. Are you ready for our first storyteller? Jackie, recent immigrant from India, just got his green card, and celebration, quit the corporate job to pursue art, creative projects. because he just didn't care anymore. Let's welcome
So, this is good.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm going to try to keep it short so I can get my story across before I exhaust all the 200 English words that I know. This is what I imagine like when people in America ask me, "Oh, you're an Indian, how do you speak such good English?" So I imagine them thinking, before coming here, I brought a big briefcase, I packed some clothes, some nouns, some verbs and adjectives. So this story is called The Role That the US Immigration Played in Changing My Marital Status. I was in India when I fell in love with my girlfriend who was in America. Whitney and I met each other online, like the faithful true millennials that we are, on Facebook, and soon took our relationship to the next level by tagging each other on memes and such. Before we realized we had started dating and decided that we were serious enough to take it offline. So, yeah, that's the thing. You try it. Like I said, I was back in India, she was here in America. And it was still an exciting time. Imagine to go out for one date. You have to book flights all the way to Thailand because you also believe in equality, so you want to make sure each partner comes halfway through. Which actually set a great precedent for our interracial marriage because in Thailand, especially on the beaches of Pattaya, we saw wonderful examples of 65-year-old white men with their 18-year-old Thai wives. Till currency exchange do them apart. Over the next few years, we continued meeting each other over halfway points across the world. Once Whitney even came to visit me in Mumbai, my hometown, where I introduced her to my mother as a foreign business client. Who was assigned to me to be taken care of. Which I did very well, I must add. And she decided, okay, now it's good time for me to visit her in America. So I applied for a tourist visa and I entered the Mumbai office of the US Embassy, which I also call the traveler's super conscience, because they get to decide whether it's the right time for you to take a vacation or not. But the moment I stepped inside the visa office, that's when I realized that if you belong to a so-called third world country, you are looked at as a criminal until proven innocent. The first question that the visa officer asked me was, how do I trust that you won't stay back in the US to seek illegal employment? Now, I wasn't employed at the time, so I wasn't even seeking employment in my own country. Nevertheless, it felt bad. I had been to 5 other countries until that time, and I had always honored my visa terms, and this whole line of questioning seemed bizarre. To give you a parallel, if the US Immigration Office were like a coffee shop, the first question that the barista would ask you would not be, how may I help you, sir? It would be, how do I trust that you won't spill coffee all over your shirt, sir? And some of our lovely American patrons here, maybe you will burn this cafe down if I give you a hot cup of coffee. I'm like, because I have prior experience in handling my coffee, plus I'm paying you. My visa got rejected twice. My money was too cheap for them, my skin too brown, my accent too thick. So we regrouped together, Whitney and I, we did some research. We were heartbroken because we couldn't even meet each other anymore. So we did some research and we found out that the views that the US Immigration Office held about relationships were far more conservative than my Indian mother. They consider a relationship legitimate only if you're married or engaged. So we decided to beat them at their own game. Instead of a tourist visa, we were now gonna apply as a visa as a spouse. Yeah, is this even worth it? Or should we just stay?
Check, check.
Good.
Hi, my name is Jitesh. How are you doing?
All right. That's what you get after going after a singer. Storytellers. Where was I?
Being about your own
You guys are listening. This has never happened before. Ask where was I the like, you were in the way of the next storyteller. So, like I said, so this is what they've thought, and we applied for a visa as a spouse. Now you have to understand, for the US immigration cannot keep, the office cannot keep a US citizen away from their spouse, even if they're across borders. No, this was back in the days, pre-2019, where they did not believe in family separation. So we did apply, and because of that, Whitney decided to propose for marriage for official reasons only. So essentially the US Immigration Office quickened our love affair. This is also good advice for those in the audience, by the way, who have hesitant girlfriends and boyfriends. Get the authorities involved. Works like a charm. So I kind of said yes for official reasons only. And went back to the traveler's super conscience. This time confidently, they recognized me. They saw I have a new visa. They recognized me because by now I was like a regular customer. Albeit a customer who's denied service every time. This time, the first question they asked was, why aren't you getting an arranged marriage? For those in the audience who don't know what an arranged marriage is, it's when parents get their offspring and a stranger and demand that they sleep together for the rest of their lives. I said, I'm too old for that. You have to be groomed a certain way. I missed the cut. But they relented. They cannot keep a US citizen away from their spouse. They had to give me the visa. Immediately after which, I came here and we got married in a courthouse in the presence of a very bored-looking clerk and a judge. But you have to understand, I know this, between the jokes and everything, let's not forget all of this over 2 years. For what? Not for any special privilege, but to exist. Just so I can be here, so two people who love each other can stay together, not for a privilege. It has a happy ending, don't worry, everybody gets serious. I've been raised on enough Bollywood movies to know my closure etiquettes. So, this year I got married for the second time to the same person. Whitney and I flew together to India just so we can get married in the presence of friends and family, so we can, for celebratory reasons instead of official reasons, so we can try our Indian ceremonial wedding and try our Indian traditional wedding garments, which are like regular clothes but on LSD, in the presence of not clerks and judges but on friends and families. And also to establish, for once and for all, that she isn't my foreign business client, but my very, in fact, twice lawfully wedded wife.
Check.
Mic check. Oh, spill a little water there. Cleanup time. All right, so thank you so much, Jitesh, and please give another round of applause for Jitesh's work. Also, with immigration, the last immigration reform was in 1986, 33 years ago. So it tells you how broken and how outdated the system is. So moving forward, I want to introduce to you our next storyteller, Janki Modi, who has also been doing storytelling shows, also had a solo storytelling show very recently. And I am very excited, both Ada and I are very excited to have her on here, so please give a warm welcome to Janki Modi.
Hello.
It keeps going down.
Why don't we just, yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Can you give it another time?
I'm going to risk it because I need to talk with my hands. What are you? Are you Italian? Are you Greek? Mexican? Do you speak Spanish? Are you white? Black? Mixed? Are you a gypsy? What are you? I'm Indian. Oh, what tribe are you from? I'm Indian, like from India. Oh, you don't look Indian. Well, I am. I was always the only Indian, combating the image of India we were taught in school every year. The caste system, arranged marriage. On one page, a shirtless, dirty, brown boy with a one sandal. On the other, the Taj Mahal. Now I'm sure there's like some mention of yoga, because what could we even know about India without yoga? No mention in that book of middle-class families where the mom cooks too much and the dad comes home with a headache. That was my lived experience. As a second-generation Asian American, I always had one foot in each culture. Solid footing in neither. You're split. Sometimes right down the middle. Sometimes in a secret spot that you hide away. Maybe you're really good at keeping it to yourself. Maybe you're a good Asian kid, and when you go away to college, you just explode. When I went to college, I became more Asian. Well, I was never really a good Indian to begin with. I did poorly in school. I hated math. I didn't speak the language. I didn't watch Bollywood movies. I had a Western name that made it really easy for me to navigate through all my social circles. I was too white, even though girls in my community circle were bleaching their skin to look like mine. Don't you want to be a doctor? Would you want me to be your doctor? Probably not. I came to Chicago for art school. Did you know that there are a lot of Indian people in Chicago? Like a whole lot. I became a grown-up, and all my different selves got smashed together. I was so Indian when I came to Chicago. I wore Indian clothes and a bindi to school. I learned the Indian national anthem. It's very inclusive and written by a Nobel Prize winner, an artist like me. I fell in love with the India who was beautiful before the objectification of the Western gaze. I decided to change my name. the name of an ancient Indian queen. My feet still in two different cultures, but with stronger footing now. I felt a freedom. I put in the work. I taught myself how to read, write, and speak Gujarati, my mother language. Flashcards always in my pocket. I always had a notebook where I could practice all my handwriting in the car, and I always kept a dictionary with me. Language is tricky though. Did you know that the word for the Indian merchant class sounds just almost like the word for a prostitute? I made some missteps, but not without reward. Before my grandmother passed away, she and I would lay in bed and gab and chat about whatever we could, because in my 20s, I could finally communicate with her. I can now tell my children stories, imaginative bedtime stories, and make silly songs off the top of my head in a different language. This was a decision and a life choice that I had to make, and it was a great achievement, and no one can take that from me. A month or so ago, a friend of mine brought a new guest to my house. She's a young, perky, American-born Indian woman with perfect teeth. She stopped our conversation mid-sentence to say, "You really don't look Indian." Wow, I thought, this hasn't happened in a really long time, years. Well, I am. Are you? I could feel the blood rush to my face. Yeah, I am. I mean, if I could prove it to you, I would. What was that even going to mean? What was I going to get out my birth certificate for her and my parents' birth certificates? I was so mad that I said that. Wow, because you really don't look Indian. I was just a little girl again, trying to figure out if I was brown enough, which box I fit into. It took me a few days to recover from that aggression. As a grown adult, I had to decide again that I'm enough for whatever I am. This is really a vulnerable story for me to tell. For scale, I mostly speak on pregnancy loss advocacy, which is something that I also have lived experience of. I have a solo show that is raw, emotional, graphic, but I have more reservations talking about this for some reason. Despite that, I first told this story this summer in what I would primarily describe as a white space. I knew I was putting myself in the way of audience voyeurism, but I wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and just tell the story already. After the show, 4 women separately came up to me to say some version of, "You know, while I was watching you, I was thinking to myself, you really don't look Indian."